Hello and welcome to the Blue Shadow Podcast. My name is Joey,
I am Dan.
and today we're excited to do another episode in our series Star Wars is Alive. This is a series where, despite all the negativity that's going on, you would see if you're on like Twitter or anything like that, Star Wars is in fact more alive than ever. There's things to love in both new and old Star Wars. It's one unified galaxy with so much to celebrate. So we want to do that by pointing out different aspects of Star Wars each time we do an episode of this. And this week we're doing our favorite ships.
Yes. There are so many ships in Star Wars. It is so vast. I mean, if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see the thumbnail is the Battle of Exegol, when all the ships in the galaxy come in.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there are so many ships, we decided that we're going to do non-capital ships today.
Mm-hmm.
Our favorite Star Wars ships that are non-capital ships. So, no Venators, no Star Destroyers, nothing like that.
But they are included as our honorable mentions.
Yes, we both love them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who doesn't? So when coming up with this, we're like, you know what? Honorable mention. We each get one. We can talk about it. And then we're going to go on to our non-capital ships.
You ready to talk about them?
Yeah.
So my honorable mention is a capital ship that is absolutely enormous, and that is the Supremacy. This is from The Last Jedi. It's Snoke's like flagship. It's basically the First Order's headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
It's so big. One of the reference books has it listed at 37 miles from like tip to tip. It's insane. It's so big.
Yeah.
It's like a state.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so cool. The way that it's removed from service is even cooler with the Holdo maneuver. And I just think this is like, Star Wars doesn't always do the bigger is better thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do it, it counts. Like, this is absolutely insane to look at.
Yeah.
Maybe impractical, but so cool.
Yes. It is incredible. Just the picture. It looks so menacing.
Why don't you do yours and then we can contextualize it together?
If you guys have listened to us in the past, you'll know that there's a certain capital ship has a special place in my heart, and that is none other than the Imperial Star Destroyer.
A good choice.
It is iconic. You could show that ship to most people, and they'll know that it's from Star Wars, I feel.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
I mean, it's the triangle. Everybody
The pizza
knows.
ship is what I call it.
Everybody knows the pizza ship. They're so menacing, and I was debating, like, do I do a Super Star Destroyer or just a Star Destroyer? I'm like, you know what? Star Destroyer. They're so cool.
It's classic. And looking at it, it makes me want to buy that Lego set. I really want the Cal Kestis minifigure that's in it. And I was like, who wants a Star Destroyer? And then now I'm like, dang it, I want a Star Destroyer.
Yes.
And the Supremacy, why I wanted you to have your reveal first, is like, it's like that, but times 7,000.
Yeah.
So it takes one of the coolest, most recognizable Star Wars ships, and it's like, what if it was cartoonishly sized?
Yes, and you were talking about, like, in Star Wars, they don't always do bigger is better. They do with bad guy ships.
Yeah. And this is a pinnacle of that idea.
And in this area, I mean, there's Star Destroyer, Super Star Destroyer, and then the Supremacy.
Supremacy is nuts. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And the Super Star Destroyer is, like the most famous one, Darth Vader's flagship, the Executor.
Mm-hmm.
I forget how much bigger it is than a regular Star Destroyer.
I do too, but it's
It
substantial.
Oh, yeah. It's if the Supremacy is a state in the air, the Super Star Destroyers are cities.
Mm-hmm.
And the Imperial Star Destroyers are like towns.
So cool. Do you have a particular Star Destroyer that is your favorite, since we are not going to talk about them later on in this list?
You mean like a specific
Yes.
one, like the Chimera? No.
That's why I wanted to talk about the Chimera. It's so cool. I love the like patchwork, like gold that it has in it now from Ahsoka.
I think it's cool. I just think that's the beauty of the Imperial Star Destroyer. They all look so menacing.
They do. And like there's something about that, like it's the ship that like
It is
looms in the background over the planets over the rebel ships.
It is the second ship you see or was it the first ship we see?
It's the ship. I think you might see the Tantive 4 first, but
briefly.
But it's the one that makes you go, "Oh my god, this is
like
a
just
big
the sheer
ship."
size of it.
Uh-huh. It's so cool. Ready to move on to number 5?
Yeah.
All right. That'll take you to your number 5.
So my number 5 is very similar to my number 4. or my honorable mention, excuse me. And my number 5 is the TIE Fighter,
Classic.
the iconic TIE Fighter. No, I mean, there's so many variations of the TIE Fighter. You have TIE Bomber, Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, the TIE Defender.
I see you slipping in 7 different ships into this one pick.
I'm just saying, it's the regular good old-fashioned TIE is my favorite.
The vanilla TIE.
It is.
If I had to pick, my favorite TIE would be like the First Order one from the Force Awakens. It has like the red and the black. But I mean, that's nothing without this.
Yeah, and these were and the lore behind them, how they're so mass produced, but the way the Empire did it is you never fly the same ship twice.
Mm-hmm. They're disposable,
so you don't get attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So your focus is never trying to save the ship.
And like, there's no hyperdrive.
Yep.
I think it has like weak shields. It's designed to be like kind of like a gnat in space.
And the screech.
Now, I will say I'm often rough on or like hard on Andor,
but
the way that it used the screech of the TIE Fighter is almost like a horror movie reveal.
Well, it's
so cool.
Well, that is mirrored to history too.
Mm-hmm.
The German Stuka bomber was a dive bomber that they included a whistle on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it started its dive, it had the cry. So you can hear it coming before you see it.
It's just so cool that it was that's a Dan history fact. It's a fun fact.
It is
but
a fun fact.
The way that they were able to use it as something that you usually see in the context of these like bombastic space battles.
Yeah.
To then become something that's like almost intimidating. I thought was really cool.
Yeah, like you see them, you get 4 shot down in a row in space, but when they're flying over your town and going after you, they're pretty scary. We saw it in Andor. We saw it in The Force Awakens.
In Rebels, when like Zeb and Ezra Steele won.
Yeah.
I like they're a fantastic ship.
They're deceptively menacing.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is mirrored by my number 5.
Yes.
Which is, and it's close here. I picked a specific one, and this is the T-70 X-Wing. This is the X-Wing from the sequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, of course, the sequel appreciator picks the sequel ship. But I do think this kind of takes the original design, and it makes some changes to it that I really love, particularly in like the thrusters or engines or whatever. You can see they kind of like meet to make one complete circle, where the original trilogy X-Wing, they're like 2 circles stacked on top of one another. And I just think it looks so like sleek and slender. And I know some people have problems with the fact that the X-Wing and TIEs were reused in the sequels and new ships weren't created, but new ships were in fact created.
But also, why would there need to be new ships to created? I mean, if you look at it from the Rebels perspective and now the Resistance, they worked.
And they're iconic and recognizable, and the galaxy views them as the good guy ships.
And a lot of them are probably refurbished.
Mm-hmm.
That they just were outfitted with new technology. And the Empire with the TIEs, like you said, they were so disposable and mass produced.
And Palpatine's not exactly one to change his. I mean, he can adapt on the fly, but if he's going to run this First Order from the shadows, he's just going to keep him looking like that intimidation.
And they
factor.
worked, and they, like you said, they changed them a little bit in the First Order.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many variations of them. They're the perfect ship for mass production.
This is a classic Joey and Dan. I pick the good guy ship. You pick the bad guy ship.
Yeah.
They're pretty close enough. And then we're going to start to diverge a little bit, but not necessarily for our number 4. With my number 4 being the Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter. This ship is iconic to me. I know sometimes you make your attachment while you're watching or playing something. This is iconic to me because it was my favorite ship toy that I had when I was a kid. This particular one that I'm referring to is Obi-Wan's red and white one with R4 in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I imagine when I see a Jedi Starfighter. It's coming, in that point, it's going fast, moving through the asteroid field, avoiding Jango Fett.
Yeah.
I just love it so much. I have yet to buy that Lego set, but I really want to get it. I should get it before it retires. It's going to retire soon.
Yeah, you should. Well, there's also the Jedi Bob one that's out now, which is the hybrid.
It is, but I want that Obi-Wan one.
I know you do.
Anyway, what's your number 4? We can do that so we can continue to talk about Jedi Starfighters.
My number 4 is the ETA-2 Jedi Starfighter, or the Jedi Starfighter from Revenge of the Sith, or the beginning of Fallen Order.
Mm-hmm.
So cool, iconic for me. You were talking about, you grow that attachment when you watch it. Remember in Revenge of the Sith, I just remember seeing them fly it, and I'm like, I want that. I want to be that.
It is so cool.
And I had 2 of the toys growing up.
Did you have Obi-Wan and Anakin?
No, I did not. I had Anakin. and I had Mace Windu.
The
We've
purple one.
we've never seen it in live action like this. But yes, it was purple. The
That's
wing,
awesome.
yeah, it was pretty much like Anakin's, except wherever it was yellow, it was purple.
That's so cool.
It was
Not
sweet.
to continuously bring up Lego. I actually, before I talk about Lego, I had a Transformer Obi-Wan of this particular ship. It was so weird.
I had the Chewbacca Millennium Falcon.
I don't really know why those were a thing, but that's my connection to the ETA-2 Starfighter. But they're making a Lego of Ahsoka's version of this Starfighter, and Anakin's supposed to come in it too. So that'll be coming out next year, rumored, of course. But they're usually pretty on the money. Anything else about these Jedi Starfighters?
No, they're cool. You can, however, see where the design of the tie came from.
I think it's so cool, and like how like the Imperial logo is in kind of the windshield.
Yeah.
Before you even realize it.
Yeah.
It's so clever. I love these ships, and I think they like you look at it and like it screams Attack of the Clones when I look at the Delta 7 one. It screams them into this. It's just so good.
But they both scream Jedi.
They do. One chip that I'm not going to talk about is the Jedi ships from the High Republic, but those kind of would also work in this kind of ranking too.
Yes.
But they're a little different.
And
the
yes,
vectors.
in this little, if we're throwing out an extra ship, I'm gonna throw out an extra ship.
Oh, okay, it's fair. It's fair.
The ARC 170.
Yeah,
Those are pretty sweet.
And then those are so linked with the
right,
the Revenge of the Sith style.
So I'm not gonna harp on them. I had that toy growing up too.
Clearly, you can see our attachment to our toys.
Yeah, I don't have them anymore, but
I still have them. My grandma got rid of my dad's, and he's like, "We're not getting rid of any of Joey's Star Wars toys." So I still have them all in a bin.
lucky you.
Hopefully, I'll get to play with them with my children.
Yes.
Anyway,
Sticking with that theme of Jedi in the prequels, my third favorite ship is the Clone Gunship, or the LAT.
this is one that I would have put on mine too. It's so iconic.
It is the ship. This is my white whale. I always wanted this ship growing up.
You did not. I had this one.
No, did you ever get like the Star Wars magazine?
Uh-huh.
And I remember vividly how they would include like toy submissions that people would send in, and somebody built this like whole battle with like 2 or 3 of these. And like clones and Jedi running out against the battle droids. I'm like, I want that. I want to do that.
It's so cool. And it's like, I don't know about you, but like clearly our nostalgia is coming. Our nostalgia doesn't usually come out quite this much when we do this, but
No.
I don't know, maybe this is just triggering something. But like my parents had a minivan when I was younger, and I would always feel like the doors would be just like this. I was like, it's the gun ship.
Yeah, they were so cool, and I just loved it so much.
It's so unique visually too. I think a lot of ships sometimes fall into, looking like a ship from Star Wars. Like for example, in Star Wars Outlaws, the Trailblazer kind of just looks. Have you seen what it looks like?
No.
It's kind of just like a squared off kind of Falcon.
Yeah.
And it just looks like that. This is so unique, but it also screams Star Wars at the same time.
And this is one of those things where you can kind of tell what they modeled it after in real life.
Oh boy,
modeled it after a helicopter.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen it with the bubble windows.
It's I think it's a Russian helicopter from like the Vietnam era.
If you can't tell, one of us likes history and the other knows absolutely nothing about history.
I'll pull it up while you're
talking about my number 3, which is in fact the Stinger Mantis from Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order. I love these games so much. They are among my favorite video games ever, not just favorite Star Wars video games. And I think the ship is so cool, and you're able to develop such an attachment to it because you're playing, and when you're in hyperspace, you're not actually piloting it. Grease is, and you get to like just explore the ship and walk around it as if it's your home. You land on the planet, whatever you're going on, you get to walk around it. Oh, what is that helicopter called, Dan?
The Hind. It's like the M something. Yeah, it's the Mi-24 Russian Hind.
You should look that up if you're listening, because it's really cool and it looks just like it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. The Mantis, I love feeling like I have a little home base in a big, vast video game where you're off exploring all these different worlds. And this really ticks that box for me. It has your little workbench in it. It has Cal's bed. It's just so good.
It's like a space RV.
It is. You collect your plants as you're going through, and you have your little garden.
Yeah.
And Fallen Order. It's just, I have such an attachment to the ship, and I also think the enormous fin on it that rolls around while you're flying is so cool.
Yes, very similar to other ships we've seen too, with the movable wings. And
Mhm.
very Star Wars-esque.
It's so cool.
It's almost like a space yacht.
It
I
is.
know. I know. I said RV. I feel like space yacht is a better.
It has like this mix of like RV and yacht. It's like some of it seems like it's really nice, and some of it seems like it's kind of dingy. I think that's part of the balance of Star Wars. It's
Mhm.
nice and dingy. I think this ticks that box perfectly.
Yeah.
And I love that it's unique. You don't see a ship that looks like this
Mm-hmm.
in Star Wars, much like the gunship.
Yeah.
It's unique. And again, you form that attachment. I think I talk about like often with video games and TV, you spend so much time with these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might have spent more time with this ship than I have on screen with some other iconic Star Wars ships.
Oh yeah.
Just purely from brute force of playing the games.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that brings me to my number 2, correct?
Yeah.
Which is in fact the good old Millennium Falcon. I mean, what I feel like every person
Had to have it.
had to be somewhere.
Yes.
And while you'll see why it wasn't my number 1, and if you're a fan of us, you could probably anticipate what it is. But this ship is so iconic. It spans 2 trilogies and then some.
Mm-hmm.
You get to it just screams Star Wars. You're talking about the Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
You show someone, they're like, oh, that's that ship from Star Wars.
Oh,
Probably even by name, the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
It is almost a character in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so, and I hate to use the word iconic, but it is so iconic.
It is iconic.
It's arguably more iconic than what my number 1 ship is.
Oh, 100%. No, I don't
Not even
think, I
arguable.
don't think that's arguable.
No,
I think
100%. It's like, but that's to show like the power that this ship has. And we've kind of talked a little bit about me going to Galaxy's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when you see it in person, it's just like this wave washes over you of like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's the Millennium Falcon. And then you fly it. It's so good. Whenever you play video games that have the ship, it's the ship. I
Yeah.
had the toy as a child. It just,
Yeah.
we could sit here and talk for an hour about how awesome the Millennium Falcon is, but
Yeah, and spoiler alert, it was not on my original list. And Joey and I kind of talked about this off air about where the Falcon would be on mine. And my perception of it is it's so iconic. It's not even a ship. It's just its own location.
it
is.
is.
It's the Falcon. It's not.
It's a character and a location and a ship all at the same time.
And I always forget that it's a ship.
Uh-huh. And then like even the variations on it in Solo and
Mhm.
seeing how it started and it wasn't dirty.
Yeah.
It's just it has so much character to it
Yeah.
that you yourself are attached to it. And it's so unique and like I don't know if you've heard about like how it's designed, but they kind of described that they wanted like it's based on like a street lamp, I think, and they described like a hamburger design rather
Mhm.
than like something more vertical.
Yeah.
And it really ticks all the boxes. And I think this ship helped to inform a lot of the visual design, both interior and exterior, of other ships in Star Wars,
Oh yeah.
particularly non-Imperial
Mm-hmm.
ships,
The good guy ships.
the good guy ships. Ready for your number 2?
Yeah. Well, speaking of good guy ships, my number 2 is a good guy ship, and it is none other than the Y-Wing.
This surprised me.
Did it?
Uh-huh.
I loved the Y-Wing growing up. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was cooler than the X-Wing.
Wow. I'm shocked. I think it's an incredibly cool ship, and I love that it has like a unique function.
Yeah.
What led you to become so attached to the Y-Wing? Return of the Jedi boy.
Like other things, I've had the toy.
See, I never had a Y-Wing.
So I had both of them. I had the Y-Wing toy, and then I had Luke's X-Wing from Dagobah. That came,
I did have that one.
That came with like the vines and stuff.
And like
on
Dirty
it.
R2.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I always thought the Y-Wing was so cool. Getting to see what it does, I just think it's not as iconic as some of the other ships.
But if it's iconic to you, it's your
But-
personal
And then
list.
when you see it, you know something's about to go down.
And
And
I
don't just bring the Y-Wing out. I mean, and it spans across all 3 trilogies.
Mhm.
We see it in the prequel trilogy, especially in the Clone Wars. We see it a lot.
Mhm. And they have like the little more like they look a little more polished.
Put together.
Yes. I look for me personally the connection that a Y-wing with Chopper in it crashed on Ryloth, and that's how Hera and Chopper met. Like that is probably my biggest connection. And a Y-wing allowed us to confirm that Babu Frick is still alive. You're like, this is not a reason to like a Y-wing.
No, it's
Hey.
you can whatever reason you have to like anything in Star Wars is a valid reason,
It's true.
even if it's just so even tangentially related.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always thought the Y-wing was so cool, and like I said, you knew something was going down if you see the Y-wings coming in.
Yeah, they're not just flying around in Y-wings to get from place to place.
No.
Like they might in X-wing.
No, they're going to.
They're there for business.
They are there for business. And this mention, we got to talk about, briefly mention the other ship, the U-wings and Blue Squadron.
U-wings are cool.
Yeah,
I like them.
and the A-wings, but
The U-wings kind of tick the similar box that the clone gunships do,
yeah,
but for the rebellion.
yeah,
That's a great example of something that was introduced very relatively recently in Star Wars. That's
Mhm.
kind of just embedded itself within the fabric.
yeah,
Like it's in Rebels. It just makes sense that it's there.
yeah,
Because we don't really see a ship that offers that function
mm-hmm.
in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
There's something else I wanted to say. I guess not.
I don't know.
No.
R.I.P. Blue Squadron. You know why they met the end they did? Blue Squadron and Rogue One,
Why?
much like the green lightsaber.
Oh.
They were on a blue screen. They couldn't have blue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they had red, yellow, and green.
Yep. That makes sense.
And they needed a reason not to have blue, and it's because they all got trapped on Scarif.
Kaboom.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. I think we're on to your number one.
So that brings me to my number one. And if you've listened to us before, neither one of our number ones should be a surprise to anybody. So without further ado, my number one is Count Dooku's Solar Sailor. So elegant.
So unique.
It fits his nobility of, I'm better than you, I know it, and I'm going to run you down in a sailboat.
It's obnoxiously cool.
Yeah.
He's not even flying it. There's a droid flying it.
Yeah. It's incredible. And then when you read the Dooku book and you find out more about the functionality behind it and how there's no energy signal, so you can't pick it up.
It's so cool and so clever and so unique.
Yeah.
Like it almost looks like insectoid kind of.
It looks very Geonosian.
Uh-huh. Is it created on Geonosis?
I feel like it is.
Well, let's just continue talking about your love of Count Dooku. I'll go to Wikipedia.
It's the ship itself. It's just so cool. I can talk about it all day. I mean, like you said, obnoxiously unique. And this just massive solar sailboat. And so fitting of the character. If another character had this ship, I don't think it would fit.
I agree with you.
Maybe-
He's so regal.
Maybe Leia. I could see Alderaan having one.
Maybe if it's like silver
Yeah.
or Naboo, maybe. But
Naboo.
there are very few. Padme and Leia are about the only other characters that I could see flying something like this.
What, you can't see Poe Dameron flying a solar sailor?
I don't think. Geonosis, you're correct. So it was designed by the Hupla Pasa Tizik Shipwright Collective of Geonosis. If you're wondering, it cost a steep 35,700 credits. You're like, thanks for that useless piece of information.
What's the conversion rate of credits to Shroot bucks
See, we got to get to American dollars first, then we can get to Shroot bucks.
and then Stanley Nichols?
See, this is all important stuff here.
It is.
We only talk about the most important stuff on Blue Shadow.
We do. So-
You all good talking about Count Dooku?
Just so cool. It's probably for me just the coolest and most unique ship on this list.
I would certainly give you unique, but I would fight you on coolest because I think the number one coolest ship in Star Wars for me and my favorite is the Ghost
Shock.
from Star Wars Rebels and Ahsoka. If you've listened to us at all in any capacity, you know I love Star Wars Rebels. I am the proud backer of the HasLab Ghost that should be coming relatively shortly at the time of this recording. Within a few months. I ordered it over a year ago. I'm ready. The Sabine and Chopper add-on came.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staring. We're in a room with a Lego Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
I've resisted the urge to buy the Micro Galaxy Squadron one. My wife says, you don't need every Ghost. You're getting the definitive Ghost.
Well, that's...
I mean, she's generally right about what she says. Or always right, more or less. But
if you have a ghost room...
Well, I'm going to need the Micro Galaxy Squadron one.
I know. We don't want the collection to be
Maybe I'll
incomplete.
just have to get it.
We don't want it to be incomplete.
She's going to listen to this and go, she's going to come for us. Anyway.
I'll get it, and then I'll make you jealous.
That's rude, but it's okay. Anyway, why do I love the Ghost so much beyond me just being dramatic about it? I think, much like I talked about with the Mantis, you spend so much time with it. It has such a homey feel. They literally live on this ship.
Oh yeah.
So you have that whole dynamic with it being this like home for them and where they have their downtime. I'm a big proponent of storytelling and stuff like this, giving you time to be with the characters while they're not in the thick of action. That's part of why I think TV is such a great medium and why I have problems with the 8-episode series format, because you don't have time to do stuff because it's basically just a movie.
Yeah.
But in Rebels, we spend so much time with the Ghost as a home base. Then when it turns into being this formidable ship in combat because Hera is so wonderful, it's just such that dichotomy of this ship, almost more than the Falcon, and that's why it resonates more with me, is like it is this home for this family, and it's also this incredible ship that consistently outguns and outpowers the Imperial ships.
Oh yeah.
Led by Hera's flying. And I didn't include it separately because it's a little bit of a technicality, but my favorite part about the Ghost is the ability for the Phantom to dock into it.
Just gonna ask you about the Phantom.
I didn't put it separately because it's like I should have put in the Phantom.
Phantom 1 or 2?
2. Phantom 1 is cool, but I love that Phantom 2 is like a repurposed separatist ship, and Sabine puts her little spin on it.
Yeah,
it's just so good, and seeing it in live action for Ahsoka was so like gratifying for me. I was just so excited to see it, and it was treated with, again, such respect. It was on screen as if it was the Falcon, and I just loved that it had that to it. I love the Ghost.
Yes.
I'll stop talking because I'll continue to talk about the Ghost for hours.
The Ghost is worth it.
Oh man, it's so good.
And we're going to be seeing it again and again.
Hopefully, I will never turn down an appearance from the Ghost at the Battle of Exegol. Who's piloting it? Jason? Maybe? Who knows?
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that any of the Rebels characters die, so maybe it'll just be Hera. When we're off air, Dan has the more delusional Star Wars opinions, but apparently when we hit record, I go a little delusional. Rebels character can die. We know. One of Dan's favorite moments is, in fact, a Rebels character dying.
It's not my favorite moment.
I believe in the first episode of the series.
The symbolism,
the power
of
it.
Yes, you think I enjoyed watching Kanan die?
Spoiler alert.
Psychopath?
I'm just kidding. No, I don't think you're a psychopath. I think it is powerful, and you noticed and commented on that.
Anyway.
Can I say one ship that I think would have been on this list if it did not get blown to smithereens? You know what it is. It's the Razor Crest. I think that if we had more time with the Razor Crest, I think it would have elevated to a level of something like the Ghost, or particularly the Ghost, I think.
Well, we might be seeing the Razor Crest again.
We're seeing a Razor Crest. I don't think it's Mando's.
We don't know.
It's in pieces. Did you see it?
Maybe they rebuild it like the Galaxy.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Yes, I've seen
I think the Razor Crest would have worked there for me. I think it's funny how I was just talking about the HasLab Ghost. People like backed the HasLab Razor Crest, and then like shortly after it, that's when they destroyed it in the show. It's like, we got your money.
Well, it's right after they put out the UCS Lyco set too.
Yes. I don't know. I love the N1, but the Razor Crest was just so cool.
Different.
I love how we found a way to talk about 15 ships that were not on our list.
Yeah.
And the Razor Crest clearly has not overtaken any of these, but I wanted to talk about it because I think it had such potential. I think the N1 is cool, but I think the Razor Crest had such potential to be like that home base for Mando and Grogu.
But I think
like Grogu had his little room.
The destruction of the Razor Crest symbolized Mando's growth from bounty hunter to father.
100%. And I think I'm intrigued to see how they play with that dynamic in the future in terms of his ships, especially given that in the leaked trailer from D23 we saw a Razor Crest with Zeb in it, which also... Anyway, you have anything else to add on our favorite ships?
No, you can't go wrong with a favorite ship in Star Wars. There's just so many.
No, and your list might look so different from ours, and that's totally okay. Please let us know what your list looks like. Do you think one of us is crazy? Do you think both of us are crazy? Or do you wholeheartedly agree with what we have to say? Please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. With that, thank you so much for listening. We really, really, really appreciate it. like to end this show by saying there is so much to celebrate in Star Wars. And once again, on this list, it's a fusion of new things, old things. We have so much to appreciate, both new and old, in Star Wars.
Yeah.
That I think to waste your time allowing negativity to engulf your enjoyment of Star Wars is doing yourself a disservice, because there's so much to celebrate.
Yeah.
So with that, we can happily say Star Wars is alive. And with that, please consider to giving us a follow on X, Twitter at Blue Shadow Pod, or on Instagram at Blue Shadow Podcast. And also, please consider giving us a subscription on YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice, as well as leaving us a review, like whatever. We appreciate it all. We're relatively new, and we'd love to have you along for the ride as we continue to talk about our love for Star Wars and try and keep it positive, which is very challenging in days like this.
It is.
So with that, go ahead.
It's okay. We're allowed to be challenged.
We're going to be challenged. It's going to make all the positivity that much sweeter.
Yes.
All right. With that, thank you so much. We appreciate for listening. We really appreciate it. Have a good one, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.